experience. And that's what really we encourage all of us to do, because it's only sharing our own personal experiences of life, of our joy, challenges, a journey, that other people come to know us better and learn from us. So I am so excited to, again, this evening, have another wonderful presenter to talk to us about gardening. And as we start the new year, we are always looking at how best to start our year, especially with resolutions. We want to do New Year resolutions. We want to hit the ground running with all our lists of things, all achievements that we want to accomplish in the new year. So gardening, as all of us know, is Ethan. It calls all of us to get to our Mother Earth to relate. And whenever we are close to nature, close to our Mother Earth, something incredible happens in our lives. And we need to tune into that, because sometimes, honestly, most of us are not even aware of what happens on earth. We are not even aware of our 2 feet on the ground. So there's a song that really excites me, says, touch the earth with gentleness, touch the earth with love. That is where our beginnings started. And eventually, after our journey on this earth, on this world, in this world, we're going to go back to our Mother Earth. In the meantime, we want to be cognizant of how we are relating to this incredible gift that we've been given, and know what we need to do, how we need to relate better, or even make it a better place for each and every one of us. And most importantly, how do we make it better for the younger generation, for kids, for grandkids, for great-grandkids? How would they remember us in this world? How would they remember how we treated the earth? Very important. We want to make sure that we leave a legacy that will last forever, that in the next 150 or 200 years, that people who might exist then will always reckon with what we've done to preserve the earth, to preserve our Mother Earth. So we have our presenter. I'm still trying to see if she has connected. Emily, do you have any information on that?
Not yet. I'm still working on it.
Okay. So before actually, while we're waiting for her, let's give her another 5 minutes. I would like to ask if anyone has really ever worked in the garden in the past, present, or plan to do that in the future. If you have done that in the past, what was your experience? If you're doing that right now, what would you like to share with us? If you plan to do that, I need to know what really made you to take that decision this year, 2022, to connect with the earth in that manner. I'd like to know if anyone wants to share, please feel free to share.
Hi, I'll say that. Zita, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. We grow tomatoes. You know, we've grown zucchini and cucumbers. I mean, we have to do that again, but it's really it's so wonderful to see it, to be able to pick it off the, whatever it is, and take it into your house, your tomatoes, your zucchini, your cucumbers. It's a great feeling. So that's my experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Did you do that in the past or right now, or do you plan when did you do that?
In the past, number of years ago, it's been a number of years.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'd like to get back to it. It's
Yeah.
really, it's very therapeutic.
Yes. I like
Thank
that
you.
one. Yes, I like that word, therapeutic. Hannah, thank you. When I was growing up in my little village, I have shared this story over and over again with my friends. I don't know if I shared it with you guys, but if I have, please forgive me. It's just that it's one of those stories that is part of my root and I can't stop sharing it. When we were growing up, my mom, we had a little garden at the back of our house, and everybody in my village did that too. So we planted so many different crops. We planted red pepper, different kinds of pepper. We planted tomatoes, like Hannah said. We planted vegetables, like pumpkin. We planted all kinds of stuff. And greens, different species of greens. And what my mom does is every afternoon or evening, we prepare food fresh. We didn't know anything about going to buy stuff from the market. It all came from the garden and the farm. So my mom would tell us, me and my younger brother, and she would say, just run to the garden, get me pepper, don't get the red one, get the green one, don't get the bigger one, get the middle-sized one, get green, don't get this, get the other one, make sure you don't cut it in a wrong way, and come back in 15 minutes and we will run. We go pick everything up, we rush back. And she will use it to prepare food for us. And you know what was interesting? I thought everybody in the world did that. I didn't know that there are people like my nephews now and nieces in Texas. They had no clue of what I'm talking about. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I used to think everybody did the same thing. And growing up and traveling the world, in fact, living more years outside my country, I have started to recognize the reality. I never knew that there are people in this world who never went to any garden or planted anything. It's just the way it is for them. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how did that happen that people have that kind of connection with the earth? And it does something to you. It did something to me. My relationship with the earth is pretty, for me, I'm very much aware of the earth. I am very much aware of what comes from the earth and what goes back to the earth. Because when we also did our gardening towards the end of the harvesting season, my mom will show us how we can take the manure and how you can, make it again ready for the next planting season. So I learned that whole recycling, it was no news to me. And then I am in a world where people are still learning, to recycle.
Hey, can you hold on for 1 second?
To make stuff, like reuse it. That was part of my nature. That was part of my upbringing. And it's not so hard for me. But I also know that I should not expect that everybody, especially with the information I have right now and the knowledge I've gathered, I should not really expect everyone to know what I know. That I should be able to find out from people, what do they know about gardening? What do they know about farming? What kind of relationship do they have with the earth and what grows up on the earth? So that will really help me for my own sanity and for other people's sanity too, because when we start expecting everybody to know what we know or understand what we do, it brings misunderstanding. So that's one of the things I've learned, planting and harvesting, that is not everyone's, cup of tea just because we all have different upbringings. So I'm going to still let people come in and share their own, ideas and their own knowledge of planting and gardening. Yes, Johannes, you have your...
Yeah, I can talk for hours about gardening. I started actually 50 years ago, a little while ago, when I was living in New Zealand. I was a carpenter, and I was very conscious of the fact that we would just take trees, cut them down, make lumber out of them, and I got into building homes. And I decided I'm going to plant more trees compared to what I'm using in the building trade. And I've done that for years. So I was conscious of the importance of the earth. Camping, I used to love camping just to be in nature, especially bare feet, because then you're really in touch. Gardening, it is so therapeutic to have your hands in the soil. It's like better than a vacation in a way. And in the future, I believe I'm going to be very much involved with farming in Australia, in Nigeria, and maybe here too. But I'm more and more convinced that we as a society need to get back to nature and back to basics. That when we are connected with the earth, we're connected with God. We're connected with creation. We come back to our senses, and in quietness, we really connect. That's just how it is. And I wish this was a subject taught at schools, that even in kindergarten, kids have a little garden, whether it's inside or outside. So they learn about growing stuff themselves, getting the satisfaction, getting the pride, getting life skills. So that's my bit for now.
Thank you so much for contributing to this conversation. Anyone else? The rest of us here, you guys have never heard about gardening or farming or what? We need to hear from everyone. Please tell us about your experience of gardening or farming. Like Joanna said, if I start sharing my experiences and what that has done in my life, it would take the whole time. But I want every other person to get the opportunity to contribute to the conversation.
So I can talk a little bit. It's not so much gardening, but I have the city version, I guess, I suppose, a bunch of plants on my windowsill that over time, since working from home during COVID, have gotten out of control. It's, as my husband calls it, a jungle now. And so while not, I mean, I have some that are herbs, but otherwise just plants to look at, but definitely bring me happiness, and I enjoy working with them and hands in the dirt and things like that. And kind of fixing stuff throughout the day makes me happy, a distraction from work here and there. So maybe that's not quite gardening, but plants nonetheless.
No, Lucinda, that's absolutely gardening. Anything that helps you to touch the soil. I'm sure your plants are growing on the inside the soil, I believe. So you're still touching the soil that comes from the earth. It doesn't fly from heaven. So you are still in touch. And you know what plants do for us? We know that they will give us the things that they don't need, which we all need, we rely on for our own survival. And then they take what we don't need. So the oxygen that everybody breathes, and really, that's something I would encourage you to thank God for COVID. I am really very grateful for that, for what COVID has done. COVID didn't really cause the whole havoc 100%. There are a few benefits. And one of them is like staying home, looking around, even finding that you really need something to make your environment look healthy through planting is such a for me such a benefit that you're gonna be healthy, you're healthy, and don't mind whatever your husband says. He's also enjoying it. So we all enjoy stuff, and when we are not even aware of it, it makes us healthy. It makes the environment even healthy. It makes the earth healthy as well, and that's one of our responsibilities. We all have that. We are all indebted to the earth, to our world, to make it a better place. And one of the ways we have to do that, or we need to do that, is through what you're just doing. Not everybody lives in a community where you get access to gardening. The community where I lived like 4 or 5 years ago provided me with this opportunity, beautiful garden where I planted all kinds of spices, tomatoes, pepper, and I even shared it on the social media and got some, recommendations. Some people applauded me and stuff like that. But the past year or two, I don't have that opportunity anymore. And I know several people that would love to really practice gardening, farming, but they don't have the opportunity to do that. So anybody that gets the chance to do that, for me, is a blessing. So please grab that opportunity, make the best out of it for yourself, for the community, and for the earth. Thank you, Lucinda, for sharing. Anyone wants to share about gardening, farming?
I can go ahead and share if you'd like.
Sure.
All right. Well, I basically grew up into it a little bit, I guess, with it being around me. In the house I grew up in, we had a garden on our 1 acre lot. And so we had the rototiller, and, so I don't claim to have done a lot of the gardening, but my family had me do some rototilling and getting the weeds out of there and so forth. I have 2 sisters and a brother, so we were a family of 6. So we all had our little different roles in that. But yeah, that was a great experience, growing the zucchini and the rhubarb and, all the different stuff. And on the farming side, I grew up with a grandfather who got into growing Christmas trees, if that counts into this conversation at all. We had a little family business there of selling Christmas trees to the outlets. When you're out in the marketplaces and you see the Christmas trees, I know how to grow those things, and get them ready for going into people's homes at Christmas time. So, and also have a background 13 years in the golf course business. So I know how to grow turf grass, and I did a lot of work with the flower beds, planting a lot of flowers. I spent a lot of hours taking care of flowers. So got that experience. And so presently, in present day time, my family and I now, we don't take much of an opportunity, maybe a little bit, but we're a water ski family. So we're always pressed for time, being show skiers on demand a couple days a week. So I think that's a little bit of an issue, that families are finding other things to do with their time. And I think committing to a garden is something that, I don't know if it's a legitimate exchange, but I think that's just what's happening, is that people just feel stretched for their time. So they're kind of finding time by not doing the garden. But I also am I'm a working board member of what's called Humans United in Mutual Aid Networks, global community. Our New Zealanders, Johannes mentioned about his time in New Zealand, very strong in this community, including time banking and whatever. And out of Madison, Wisconsin, there's a group called the Madison Man. So it's interesting. We're World of Women. And so actually it was kind of an endeavor to break through the gender impressions on gender and what they call a false binary about women's roles and men's roles. So they have, something where they call it a mutual aid network, but it's to help promote women's work. The old thing, the old stereotype of women's work, to make it, part of man's work to do women's work. So interesting stuff there. But in Madison, Wisconsin, they have community gardens, and they're working in a cooperative fashion where they're even building technology for the future of the bioregion to have more gardens that will be relegated to the community and develop a community garden network, which that's really powerful, because when you talk about people who are short on food, and then you have community gardens, and then they can come to know where the community garden is, and they can get good vegetables and fruit, a powerful program there. And so I learn a lot hopping on Zoom, and they let me be on Zoom with them while they're doing the gardening in Madison. I sit in Milwaukee and I just watch them, and I learn all of the, the special techniques and everything, and people who know a lot more about horticulture and gardening than I do. And so it's something out there to check into. We have mutualaidnetwork.org is kind of the network out in the world where this topic of gardening is one of the core aspects of that network. So there you go. I hope that helped.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kat, for really sharing that awesome experience you had and what is also currently going on. When you talk about, because I was actually going to talk about like kids, how we connected them to when I was growing up again, how we connected them to farming. And Pat was going to tell us more about how that works right now, both in Canada and the United States. But I'm going to share. So when you talked about women's work in my country, and that is still in existence. So what women do, there are certain crops that were known as women's crops. So men don't really get into it. And if they do, they're labeled as, are you becoming a woman now that you're growing this kind of crop? So something like peanuts, growing up, we plant peanuts, and they still do it now. So some women will come, like they may be in groups of 5 or 10 or 15. So they take turn to go farm in somebody's farm, so they take turn like 5 days a week. They go to different people to go support them. And that is to make sure that they get their thing up and running, because we have so many, weeks that you have to plant something. Like peanut, you have like a few weeks to plant it once the rain is there. So what they do in order to help everybody, they take time to go support. And so women do that. That's what I will classify that women's work. So they all go support one person and go do so. So by the end of the month, everybody's farm is already blooming, because everyone helps, everyone else to get everything up and running. And men in their own turn, some of them will have banana plantation, plantain plantation. I don't know how many of you are familiar with banana. I know most people are. But plantain is also in the same group with banana, but plantain is not eaten raw, but it's cooked, fried, boiled, however you want to do it. And I am really proud to share on this network, this platform. Johannes, I hope you don't mind. Johannes is really into farming. He is so good at that. He has shared a lot with me about it. And he's really funding our banana and plantain plantation in Nigeria. And I'm so proud that we are getting that back again. Johannes is a male, so that's men's stuff going on. And we are so excited that that is going on in Nigeria right now. And we can't wait for it to be harvested in the next 9 months or so. So You can see we're talking about the earth and how we can make our earth a beautiful place to be. Some of us are already taking that to heart, and they're really using and investing and also supporting other people to really be independent, financially, food-wise, economically, by supporting. So we can actually support our gardenings around the cities or our community, or in any way, shape, or form anybody can support. Please, let's try and do that, because we are doing it for ourselves. I always say that. Individually, we know the benefits, and the more one gets in touch with the world, the better, the earth, the better we understand our world, that it is calm, it is gentle, is friendly. And let's just make sure that whatever we do reflects what we're about and what the earth is about. And that is for peaceful, joyful enrichment for each one of us. So anyone else want to share?
I just want to say, hi, it's Hannah. I just want to say that I grew up in a suburb of New York City, and I didn't know much about planting or gardens. And then we moved to, in 1967, we moved up to Orange County, New York, mid-Hudson Valley, which we're surrounded by farms, all kinds of farms, horse farm, a lot of farming. And I prefer eating fresh vegetables, rather than canned or frozen. And we have farmers markets all around the county, especially in the warmer months. So, but there are community gardens in the city, and I've seen it in New York City. So it's wonderful, what Johanna said, and Zita, what you said. It's so important to connect with the earth. People don't understand it. They don't understand how it feels. So I just, I'm happy to be in this area.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And I want to also to remind women in this platform to recognize that the earth we refer to, you women have brought it into being as well. The earth we are talking about is being carried by women. That when we talk about gardening, there are a whole lot that reflects on women about the earth and the gardening. Think about you nurturing for 9 months, for those of us that have the opportunity to have babies, nurturing for 9 months. This little thing is the same thing as seed, putting the seed in the ground and then watch it, nurture it grow. And when they grow, they become human beings. In seed form, we're talking about planting on the ground. They grow, they become fruits, they become vegetables, they sustain life. And that's what women do. So we need to connect the earth with who we are as women. We are nurturers. And the problem and the question that I have for women is, what are those things that are really stopping us from being nurturers? Are there things that we feel we can change on our own? Are there issues that we think we can share with trusted friends, groups, partners? Who do we think we can share whatever it is that is stopping us? Because honestly, a lot of women are being impeded as we speak from living their true self, from really nurturing. And that is very critical, that the more women are being impeded from doing what they have been called to do, the worse it becomes for all of us. So I am really inviting us, encouraging us to look inside ourselves to find out what are those obstacles that are really impeding us from living life to the fullest, from being the nurturers that we've been called to be, to relate, from relating with the earth, from touching ourselves and the earth with gentleness, with love. What is it? How can we begin to really unpack them and start looking for ways that we can resolve whatever it is, whether it's inside or outside of us? I remember Heather Ann touched on this last week as well. These are questions that we need to ask ourselves, and it's got to be ongoing, that we just don't stop asking ourselves, that we just don't stop seeking for solutions to help us to live life as we should. And I am really hopeful that this year, 2022, is a wonderful time for women to really get up and start going, reclaiming our identity. So who else has something to share with us?
I guess I'll throw something in here while we're thinking stuff through to add in. But another role that I play in the world is with Optimus International. And Optimus International has a youth program called Joy Clubs, JOI, Junior Optimus International. And 20 years ago, I went to one of their international conventions down in St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri is the international headquarters of Optimism and Optimist clubs around the world. And the coincidence that happened during that convention, that international convention, was that they were showcasing during the Joy program part, they were showing Future Farmers of America, FFA. And so they were kind of doing this to show how Joy clubs work very well to help the success of other youth organizations, you know, to kind of bundle it together, to bring in the resources of Optimus International with whatever youth programs. And that year was a year of showcasing how well Future Farmers of America had done with Junior Optimus International. And so I just think there's so many ways to support kind of what we're talking to today. You know, some faith communities have gardens, right?
Yes, yes.
You know, so I think there's very many ways to come at this. And I think the point is everybody's worried about sustainability, and there's lots of nutritional companies that talk about the soil quality, that when we go to our grocery store to, you know, kind of do research on, you know, what kind of nutritional value. And that's why a lot of supplement companies are doing what they're doing, because there's a concern for, as food gets onto our dinner plate, you know, how much nutrition is really there these days. And comparing it, you know, 2022 to 1950, or, you know, long time ago, the historical trend about food as it gets to our dinner plate. And so what we're talking about tonight, or at this, whenever people are viewing this video, is you know, is what can we do to steer a future that that we're all going to be healthier for the food we put in our mouth. And this gardening topic is the answer. I have friends from networking, again going back to 20 years ago, that when one of them that I've followed up with out of Milwaukee, she got very involved in teaching people how to grow, get a garden going at their house, and looking at practical ways, looking at the reasons why people don't garden, and to address that. So you're talking about urban gardening, and making things so that people have the food that they need right outside their door, growing right outside.
Really. Yes, nice input there. Thank you so much. That is so true. And I always get worried when we, talk about fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and then when you look at it, where is it coming from? We all know where they come from, and they just don't come from there overnight. There's this whole chain of transportation that lasts forever. By the time they get to us, we know what happens. So actually trying to train our families, start that conversation, and about what is at stake right now as far as eating healthy goes, and even connecting it with all kinds of issues, health issues that people are having. I have always believed that food is connected with the sickness that is going on, always. Even though some of my healthcare professionals, colleagues may not believe it or agree with me, but I'm going to stick to my opinion that whatever you eat, we are what we eat, whether we want to accept that or not. And if we want to actually make the world a better place, let's just go back and review what we eat on a daily basis. Find out where that is coming from, and how well is that. I know that actually we don't have enough, therefore we rely on other people to sustain us. That's a good thing. But the question is, how sustainable is that? How really reassuring is that for individuals, for even community and the nation? That's really a call for action for each one of us. And wherever we are, whatever platform we find ourselves, I will encourage us to please keep talking about this topic. It's very critical in our lives. It's very critical for the next generations. And we better start thinking about what we can leave for the next generation as far as the healthcare is concerned.
If I can jump in, I think one thing is key that you've touched on, and that's education. I mean, where I am, I live out in the country in Ontario, Canada. And so it's, everyone's fairly aware of farming and gardening. And we have still 4-H clubs, and outside of COVID, agricultural fairs and fall fairs where it's all highlighted, right? There's contests for the biggest pumpkin and so on and so forth. So that's great. Where we fall short is in the cities. And I love it when I see, elementary and high schools who have a greenhouse or who have a garden. And our local college, there's a culinary school there, and they grow their own herbs. Now, I mean, we're in Canada, so we have a limited growing season, especially when it doesn't match up with the academic season. But at least there is some education going on. And it makes me think, I spent most of my life in Toronto, went to church one Sunday, and they always had the little kids in the main service for the first little bit, and then they went off to Sunday school. And so the minister would always have them come down front. And this one time, it was near Thanksgiving, and they were talking about Thanksgiving and the earth. And he had all of these root vegetables, because that's what was in season at that time, all these root vegetables on a table. And he was saying to the children, what is this and where does it come from? And he held up a rutabaga, also known as a turnip, and none of the children knew what it was. They were guessing bowling ball, dog toy, like everything. And I'm like, how? Clearly they had never been in the grocery store and looked at the signs, or their parents, they had only ever had, maybe they never had turnip, who knows? But if they did, it was either frozen or canned. They didn't know what it looked like pre-cooked. So I think education is definitely key. I mean, gardening isn't everybody's cup of tea, me included. Absolutely. And some people just don't have that green thumb, although they may try. And it does tie you down, of course. got to be watered. It's got to get sunlight. If you live in an apartment building, hopefully you're lucky enough to have a community garden, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. So we are reliant upon the farmers. But I think that education needs to be there. Absolutely. Because then we'll really appreciate what it is that they have to bring to us.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, for that. Yes, education, education, education. Yes, very important. When I was in Chicago about 11 years ago, I had the chance to have, that time I was doing a practical experience in my formation program. And I was assigned to a school called, it's a primary school called Montessori. I don't know, Montessori. I don't know how many of you are aware of that kind of school. It's one of the best schools actually for kids. So one day I went to the class. We all the time, everybody cross on the floor. There are no chairs there. I don't know whether they did that intentionally or something, but we're always on the floor crawling with the kids. And one kid picked a tomato and showed to the other one, and was, what you were talking about, Cheryl, to find out what is this. And the child looked at it and looked at it and looked at it and said, this looks like something like cherry or something. And she said, no, this is tomato. And she said, where does it grow? I don't know anything about that. The tomato I know is the one that comes in a can, she said. So apparently she had no clue of what tomato, looked like. And most of us are like that, honestly, especially if you're not really familiar, you weren't brought up in that way. There are certain fruits and vegetables you cannot identify. Even when you have the photos and everything, some of them will look different when you pick them up and show it to somebody. There are some obvious ones like banana, you can miss that one, but there are certain little, fruits and vegetables that you can miss, not knowing unless you have seen it being planted and see it grow. So yeah. Thank you, all of you, for sharing. I think this is a really great, wonderful conversation, and let us all keep talking about it, educating ourselves, educating our world, and especially our kids, so they can get on board with what we're talking about at their own level, and know what sustainability is all about. As far as farming, gardening goes. And I don't know if anybody has anything else to add to this conversation.
I just want to add in what I've learned in the last decade about adaptive gardening, raised flower beds, and considering gardeners with physical disabilities, and otherwise for the disability community, the value that is there for them. I'm on the board of a group here local to me called Adaptive Community Approach Program, and they serve adults with disabilities and integrate gardening and these types of opportunities for the membership there. And I've been a big part of helping communities integrate their members of the community with disabilities. And so this is definitely one of those topics. I'm the founder of Global Ability Fest. And so we have part of our event format that for our outdoor events that we feature adaptive gardening. And I know in the military community with our injured and wounded veterans, just very valuable, huge therapeutic benefit for injured and wounded vets to deal with things even to the extent of PTSD and stuff like that. But if they have physical disabilities, to stay healthy, be able to get right down to the ground, they're just right down there, right to the ground, right to the earth, and just using their mobility and just working, little parts of the soil that, it's just very meaningful to them, very empowering, and, great programs are grown through gardening.
Do you have that link on your link tree, if people want to connect, do we have that information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in our little Zoom session, I had put it in. Otherwise, I got it. I'm just trying to go back. Here we go. It's Linktree's page goes linktr.ee, and then that looks like Linktree. So Linktree/Wow Podcast, linktr.ee/WOWPODCAST. And when you go to that link tree, you'll say, wow, look at what they set up. So there it is. It's all in the tree. We grew it on a digital page there. A link tree grew from our friend Emily here, entered in all those links for us so we can stay fully involved with this, the Wow Podcast.
Yes.
Thank
you.
Kurt. Hi,
Yes.
it's Hannah. You know, I have a grandson, 21, who's autistic, nonverbal. And I know he's in a program, you know, mentoring, where they take him out in the community. But I have to tell my my daughter-in-law, I don't know, it's such a good idea to go out in the farming community. You know, that is so terrific. I'm going to mention that to her. I don't know if they do that. I don't think they do. So
yeah, it's all about logistics, and then the program that takes care of the members. They don't have the capacity to do much of anything with it, but if they have like a van or transportation to the place, or if they have the capability and capacity to welcome them in and try to do something indoors or closer to the premise, it's all logistics. And then if you're trying to add a new thing, it tends to be that they need it like a donated gift, because they just don't, if they have to bring any money or anything to the table, it tends to be that financial barrier that gets in the way. But if somebody in the marketplace can say, hey, if you can bring your members, then it's taken care of. That's where it all works.
that's so good. I know a number of farmers, personally, that in my business, and that is terrific. I'm going to mention that to my daughter-in-law, because she's very involved in children with disabilities, with her own child. So thank you. And I'll take that link. Kurt, could you email me?
Sure.
Okay, I'll put it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for that information. That's really important. And I know that, the more information we share, the better, because there are things that you would learn, from the other person, that you necessarily didn't know. And all of a sudden you're hearing stuff that you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know about that. So I'm glad that we're sharing this information. Yeah. Okay, so as always, we know that this podcast is brought to us by the Word of Ability podcast in collaboration with the Transform You Network. We are very excited for all they do and the support they provide for us. And we continue to take advantage of it and to build each other up and support our women, who in turn support our world. So thank you so much, all of you, for your contributions and for being here. If nobody has any more, thing to add to our conversation, I think it has been a great time with all of you. Thanks for coming, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
Thank you very much. See you next time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Nita. Thanks.
Thank you, Cheryl, for coming. I appreciate it. Are you gonna
Thank
be on
you.
next
Bye.
week? You are the one, right? Yeah. So we'll have Cheryl next week. It will be really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll see
All
you next
right.
week.
Okay. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you.
Sorry,
Hannah.
my network has been fluctuating, so
Oh,
just
really?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Maybe it's the weather.
Yes, it's windy here.
Oh, yeah. That's it. Windy City.
Yeah.
Windy
night.
City. Good night. Good night. Good night, Hannah. Okay.
Yeah, we had a garden when I was growing up.
Oh, you did it. Why didn't you share it, Emily?
I even put it in the chat. I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna chime in there.
Did you
Well,
put
I
it
was
in
trying
the
to
chat?
see what I could do about Patrice, and then I don't know. So I don't know where Patrice ended up, but
Oh my goodness. Patrice, I don't know. She didn't call me. She didn't I don't know what happened. But anyway, I hope she's fine. Because she and I talked early this morning actually. So I'm not sure what happened with her. But I'm glad that it turned out to be a good conversation as well. That people shared, you know, from